Well, that was noodly. What's up, kids? Okay, I have been asked to do a video about right-hand picking technique, or what is my right-hand picking technique. And the problem is I kind of don't have one. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I've never done like right-hand picking exercises. I've never sat and learned patterns and then just played them over and over and over. The only way I guess worked on picking technique was really if there was a riff or a lick I was trying to play, I would just stay at it until I could play it. And I guess what I kept out of my mind was, well, it needs to be a certain thing. It needs to be picked a certain way. And I was a little bit more focused on just how I wanted it to sound. And, you know, how do I want to sound, and what's my tone? And, you know, I guess that's another tangent when you get into tone is in the hands, and we can certainly talk about, you know, playing with your fingers as opposed to a pick. And maybe I'll do another video about that, because I think that's really important. I think there's so much tone that can be drug out of just your hands. Anyways, on to my lack of technique. I thought what I would do is let's try this riff, lick. People are getting caught up in the semantics, so I'm learning to say it's a lick. It's this. It's just kind of a pentatonic thing. But I thought that would be a cool way to show you at least how my mind works when I want to play something a little bit faster. So here's the lick really slow. I don't want to turn this into a licks video, but it's based on this scale in the key of D, and I'm just altering notes in it. So here it is, slow. One more time. So the reason I'm showing you that is the way I would normally play it is exactly like that on the right hand side. So I use a couple of different techniques, I guess. One is I do keep my pick slightly turned in, so instead of being completely parallel to the string, I turn it in just a little bit. It does make it easier to play because the pick will slip off the string a little bit, but it also just sounds fatter to me, so I've always just done that. I guess I could keep it parallel. That's a different tone. Or I can turn it. That's fatter to me. So that, once again, that's personal preference. I've just always kept it kind of, you know, turned in this way. And there's a lot of guys that get into the whole idea of slant picking, and that's a really cool technique. That's more of a gypsy jazz technique, rest strokes and all that stuff. I don't really employ that very much when it comes to playing electric guitar. So I don't pick every note. I tend to do a lot of hammer-ons, pull-offs. I cheat quite a bit, and then I do another thing called directional picking. It's not sweep picking, but it's directional picking, where, you know, if you're on a downstroke on, like, say the A string, and you're coming into the D string, well, then you would just sweep into it as opposed to try to alternate pick it, if that makes any sense. So I do a lot of directional picking without even knowing that I do it, and especially with this riff, I can see that that's a directional. It's another directional. So you can see where I'm kind of I'm not picking those first notes. That's all hammer on. Didn't pick that. Picked that, but swept into the next string because it was a downstroke. Now another way you can do it is, I guess it's called hybrid picking. And I started doing that accidentally. When I got the Carrie Underwood gig, there were certain songs that were, you know, more country where I did have to do the, you know, the... In the process of that, what ended up happening is when I would do a riff like the one I showed you, lick, God, that, I noticed that every once in a while I would do that. So this hand, hi, this my middle finger is doing some of the notes. So you can see. So I can do the same riff that way. It just depends on how I want it to sound. To me, that sounds cleaner and there's more accents. That's another thing I'm really focused on when I'm thinking about my own playing is you know, if I'm playing a line, I'm also thinking about, well, how am I accenting that? Am I just playing it all straight, or am I trying to accent certain notes? And I noticed, and we'll go back to the other lick, I noticed that I could get more of an accent on certain notes without consciously thinking of it. And could I play that, you know, without doing it? Sure. But it sounds different. And I think part of it is because when I'm doing a directional pick, which is what I was talking about, the that kind of stuff, it's hard to get that note to accent in basically a swept or directional pick. Yeah, I mean, all of that, it just, you know, it's how do you want to sound? You know, I know this is not helping anybody. This isn't like a, here's how to improve your chops. This is more just, this is, you know, how my brain works, right hand picking side, because honestly, that's I'm really, really weak at it. And admittedly, it's not something I work on all that much. I just try and try and try and try until it sounds like I want it to sound without that mental focus of I have to pick every note. I worry about getting into patterns. There was a time when I was into like more of a gambale technique, which is still directional picking, 3 notes per string. I did do that for a while. And that's all it is. It's 3 notes per string. You can sweep into each one. So it doesn't matter what scale you're doing. It just has to be 3 notes a string. And I could do it one way, but when I wanted to go the other way, I couldn't, and I was too lazy. So that's when I started doing that junk. And you can tell even there, I didn't pick every note. I did some hybrid stuff. A lot of it is literally, you'll catch me doing that kind of stuff a lot. I didn't pick any of that. But you can see that every once in a while, you know, I'll actually sweep this direction, or I should say directional pick that way. That's, you know, it's just how I play. You know, the second I get into patterns or really working on like exercises, it starts, I can't get it to not sound like an exercise. There are guys that just sound so musical and just insanely good. And they've, you know, practiced multiple patterns and picking techniques and sweep techniques and directional and alternate and hybrid. That honestly is what you should do. I guess the point I'm trying to make in this long vlog style video is technique is so important. It's very important. But at the end of the day, just make sure it sounds musical. If it doesn't sound musical, then adjust your just mental awareness of what you're doing a little bit so that it still sounds musical. There's nothing wrong with picking every single note. I can do it sometimes, but I just don't like the way it sounds. I want the nuances. But I've heard guys that'll pick every single note in a really long line, and it'll sound beautiful. But for me, I just, that's not my thing. And when I do try to do it, I can't get it to sound right. So take what I've showed you as far as how I play, and maybe try and apply that to a riff that you're struggling with, whether it's one you're trying to learn from someone else or one you came up with but you just can't quite get it to work. Maybe look at ways to just be a little bit more ergonomic. Find cheats, you know, because that's all I've ever done is I just find a cheat to play something like I showed you this. You know, I just found cheats. You know, I would hammer on, hammer off, directional picking, whatever worked is what I'll do. You guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I know this isn't you know, 5 steps to playing fast video. I wish I could make one, but it wouldn't be true because I just have fiddled around until I found something that worked for me. Now, there are guys on YouTube that do have those 5 steps to playing fast, 10 steps to playing fast, and those are important. Go find those guys because they're the ones that have done that type of work. I've never studied that, so it's not right for me to say, oh yeah, just, you know, do this, because I don't have a just do this. All I can do is show you how I struggle, and then maybe it'll help you. But you know, as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I've got demo videos coming up. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've done those, but I've been a little bit more focused on doing these kind of vlog style videos. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That's what helps me keep doing this if you're enjoying what I'm doing. And yeah, we will see you next time.